I found out my wife was cheating on me through a death in PUBG. That's not a metaphor. I watched her get virtually killed by a man whose voice I recognized instantly. The same man she told me was just a friend from a game. The betrayal didn't come with lipstick on a collar or late-night texts. It came with a gunshot echoing through my headphones, her giggle in the background, and a man whispering, "Let's go to our spot." Welcome to Confession Reddit, where real stories cut deeper than fiction. We expose infidelity not just to entertain, but to open your eyes to the signs people often miss until it's too late. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you won't miss the next jaw-dropping tale. Let's begin. I met Rachel 5 years ago at a bookstore in Austin, Texas. She wasn't the kind of woman you'd expect to be into video games, let alone multiplayer shooters. She was wearing a maroon dress with little white dots, squatting on the floor to browse the bottom shelf of used paperbacks. I remember thinking she looked too elegant to be alone. I cracked some dumb joke about how we were both digging for buried treasure, and to my surprise, she laughed. Things moved quickly. Within 6 months, we were living together. A year later, we got married in a small ceremony in her parents' backyard. I was 29, she was 26. It felt like one of those perfect timing things. Both of us passed our reckless phases, both ready to settle down. I worked as a software engineer. She was a dental hygienist. Life was stable, comfortable. Boring, maybe, but in a good way. Then came the pandemic. We were both home more. I was remote, she had reduced hours. That's when Rachel got into gaming. It started with Animal Crossing, like every other bored adult in 2020, then Stardew Valley, then Valorant. I was surprised. She was genuinely good. Better reflexes than me, more competitive, more intense. I was proud of her, honestly. It gave us something to bond over. Then she discovered PUBG. I never liked that game. Too many cheaters, too sweaty, too frustrating. But Rachel loved the rush, the loot, the tension, the tactics. I didn't mind. I'd hear her on Discord laughing with strangers, sometimes arguing, sometimes leading the squad like a drill sergeant. Her voice had that spark again. I thought it was healthy. Better than doom scrolling all day, right? But over time, she started playing later, longer. She'd eat dinner at her desk, headphones on. I'd walk into the room and she'd barely notice. I stopped asking her to come watch shows with me. She always said, "Just one more match." I told myself not to be jealous. It's a game. It's an outlet. I trusted her. Then one night, I heard her whispering. It was almost 2 a.m. I had woken up to pee and passed by her game room. The door was mostly closed, but not all the way. I heard her giggling. "No, stop. You're so bad at this. Okay, fine. Meet me at school again." It didn't click right away. The next morning, I casually asked her who she was playing with last night. She said, "Just randoms." I nodded, didn't press, but something felt off. Her tone. The way she didn't make eye contact. She had never hidden her squad mates before. She used to tell me stories about them. Now, suddenly, they were just randoms. I started listening. One night, I sat in the hallway outside her room. I know, it's pathetic, but I had to know. Her voice was soft, playful. "You missed me? I thought you ghosted me yesterday." "Yeah, I had a dream about us landing at Paradise Resort." "Shut up, I did." My stomach dropped. I could hear the guy's voice faintly, deep southern accent, older, maybe mid-30s, flirty, confident. He called her babe and honey. She didn't correct him. I wanted to storm in, rip off her headset, scream at her, but I didn't. Instead, I started my own investigation. I installed a screen recorder on her gaming PC, quietly. She never checked her task manager. I watched her next 3 sessions the following day while she was at work. She played with the same guy every time. His username was xCarterKills, a level 74 player with a ridiculous win rate. But what bothered me wasn't the stats. It was the way he spoke to her, the pet names, the little inside jokes, the sexual tension. He knew her real name. She called him Carter. And then came the moment that changed everything. On the 3rd video, I watched them drop into a wrangle. It was foggy. They looted, joked around, and then, while hiding behind a rock, he said, "I wish we could do this in real life. Just you and me. Somewhere quiet." Rachel paused, then said, "Me too." He replied, "I'll book a flight. Just say the word." She didn't say no. I stopped the video. I stared at the screen for what felt like an hour. When she came home that night, I acted normal, asked how work was. She said it was fine, asked what I wanted for dinner. I said pizza. She smiled, kissed me on the cheek, and went to order. I felt like throwing up. But I needed more. Proof. Undeniable. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I reinstalled PUBG. Created a new account. Picked a random but slightly flirty username, Snipes and Wine. I played for hours, climbing my way through casual matches, slowly getting better, watching lobbies, recognizing voices, until one night, I heard them. Rachel. And Carter. They were playing duos. I queued into the same match by pure luck. I followed them. Landed far away, looted in silence, then slowly crept towards their location. They were holed up in a house on the edge of Pachinki. I could hear them through proximity chat, laughing, teasing. I hid in a bush across the street, waited. Airdrop came. Carter ran out to loot, Rachel covered. I took the shot. Headshot. Carter down. She screamed. I ran into the house, finished Carter with a pan just to humiliate him, then turned my mic on. "Hey, Rachel," I said. There was silence. Then, "Who? How do you know my name?" I said, "Check the kill feed." She did. I could hear her breath catch. I left the game before she could respond. When I walked out of the room, she was standing there in the hallway, pale, shaking. She whispered, "You're such a creep." But I didn't respond. I just walked past her and said, "Let's talk tomorrow." Because now I had proof, and this story was only getting started.
She didn't come to bed that night. I didn't expect her to. I heard her pacing, the soft thud of her bare feet on the hardwood floor, back and forth between the kitchen and the game room. I imagined her trying to come up with a lie that would make this all go away, but nothing she could say would matter now. I had seen enough, heard enough, felt enough. I just didn't know what I was supposed to do with all of it yet. The next morning, I woke up early, sat at the dining table with a mug of coffee and waited. She walked in wearing one of my oversized t-shirts like she always used to on weekends, except this time she didn't try to make eye contact. She opened the fridge, pulled out almond milk, then just stood there with the door open, pretending to read the expiration dates on things. "You want to talk about last night?" I asked, quietly. She shut the fridge but didn't turn around. "What's there to talk about?" I took a slow breath. "You were going to meet him." "No, I wasn't," she snapped, finally facing me. "It was just a stupid thing we said. It's a game. You of all people should understand that. Don't play that card. You crossed a line." Her eyes narrowed. "You spied on me. You stalked me in a match like some psychotic loser." I almost laughed. "You were having an emotional affair, Rachel. It wasn't real." "It wasn't real. He knew your name. You told him things about our life. You shared our bedroom details. You called him baby." "I didn't mean it like that," she whispered, suddenly softer, like if she changed her tone fast enough I'd forget everything else. He listens to me, okay? That's all it was." There it was, the line I was waiting for, that somehow this was my fault, that I had failed to listen enough, that some guy halfway across the country with a decent aim and a sleazy voice had filled the emotional gaps I didn't know existed. "How long?" I asked. She paused. "How long has this been going on?" Rachel looked down at the floor, her fingers curled into fists. 3 months. 3 months. Well, I was working late. Well, I was cooking for us. Well, I was walking our dog alone. 3 goddamn months. I nodded slowly. "Did you send him pictures?" Her silence was the only answer I needed. I pushed back my chair and stood up. "You need to leave for a while." Her eyes widened. "What? You're kicking me out?" "This isn't working, Rachel. I don't even know who I'm married to right now." She started crying, soft, pathetic tears at first, then louder sobs. "It was just a game. I was lonely. You've been so distant lately, always working, always tired. I closed my eyes. There it was, the script, word for word, the cliché justification. I was working, I said, voice flat, so we could take that trip to Colorado you wanted, so we could maybe have a kid next year, so you could keep buying those stupid gaming skins. That's what I was doing while you were telling some random guy that he makes you feel alive. She bit her lip. Her mascara was smudged from the night before. I realized she hadn't even slept. She whispered, "I'll go, but this doesn't mean we're over, okay? We can fix this." I didn't reply. I just stared at the blank wall behind her until she walked out of the room. She left 2 hours later with a duffel bag, her headset, and her laptop. I didn't ask where she was going. I didn't care. I just needed her gone. For the next 3 days, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I didn't realize how much noise she brought until it was gone. The humming of her PC, the laughter through the mic, the random yelling at teammates. Now there was just silence and the occasional bark from our dog Max when he heard the mailman. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say, that my wife cheated on me through a battle royale? I spent hours watching her old recordings, analyzing every word she said to Carter. There were more than I thought. She had saved full match replays, sometimes titled with emojis or inside jokes. They had pet names for each other. They had their landing spots. They even celebrated one of their anniversaries, the first time they won a chicken dinner together. It made me sick. Then something caught my eye. In one video, Carter mentioned visiting Austin. "I'll be there in a few weeks. Got a buddy I'm crashing with. Maybe we could, finally squad up IRL." Rachel had replied, "You better not be teasing. I'll be pissed." That video was 2 weeks old. My heart started racing. What if he was here already? I opened her Discord. She never logged out. Scrolled through her DMs. There he was, Carter the Hunter. Dozens of messages, flirty ones, dirty ones. Then one from 2 nights ago. "Flight booked. I land Friday. You better be ready to loot and cuddle." Today was Friday. I froze. I checked the time, 3:42 p.m. Her last message to him said, "Room's ready. Bring snacks." She was meeting him. In my city. I jumped into my car and drove. I didn't know where yet, but I had an idea. There was only one hotel near our place that she had mentioned before, a cheap, low-key one near the mall. I pulled into the parking lot and waited. At 5:10 p.m., I saw her. Rachel, in a hoodie, hair up, no makeup, looking around nervously. Then he appeared. Tall, muscular, wearing a camo backpack and holding a Monster Energy drink, just like his stupid profile pic. They hugged. He kissed her. She didn't pull away. I took a picture, then another, then a video. She glanced toward the parking lot for a second, right at me, but didn't recognize the car. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. They walked inside together. That night, I drank. Not a little, a lot. For the first time in months, I let go. Whiskey, beer, whatever was in the fridge. I sat on the living room floor and scrolled through our old photos. Our wedding, our trip to Big Sur, her birthday last year when I surprised her with the monitor she wanted. I looked at her face in those pictures, the woman I married, the woman I thought I knew. Then I looked at the video again, the one from earlier. Him kissing her smiling. I started typing. A Reddit post. Confession board, anonymous. My wife cheated on me through PUBG. I caught her in-game and in real life. I uploaded the photos, the video, blurred her face, kept it tasteful, but the story, I told it all. Within an hour, it had 1,000 upvotes, then 10,000. The comments poured in, sympathy, outrage, memes, DMs from strangers sharing similar stories. And then, one message from a user with the handle Hunter Down. "You're not the first husband she's done this to." My hands trembled. I clicked the profile. It was empty. Just that one cryptic message. But it changed everything. Because now I knew this wasn't just about me anymore.
I stared at the message from Hunter Down for at least 10 minutes before I responded. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, unsure what to say. Was this some troll? Someone playing with me? Or was there more? I finally typed, "What do you mean I'm not the first? Who are you?" No response. I clicked refresh again. Nothing. I checked the time, 3:12 a.m. I was wide awake, buzzed from alcohol and adrenaline, heart racing like I just won a chicken dinner solo against squads. I scrolled back through Rachel's Discord. Messages with Carter stretched back for months. Most were flirty, but some were practical. Hotel bookings, Uber receipts, Venmo transactions. He even sent her money for a dress. She had laughed in the reply, saying she'd wear it with nothing underneath. I hated myself for reading all of it. The next morning, I sobered up fast. Hungover, dry mouth, empty. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from lack of sleep, but from emotional collapse. Max curled up beside me on the couch like he knew something was off. By 10 a.m., I had made up my mind. I was going to meet him. Not to fight, not to scream, but to look him in the eye, to ask why. I needed to understand what kind of man sees a wedding ring on someone and still pursues her like a damn loot crate. I tracked down their hotel through her Uber history. It wasn't hard. She hadn't bothered to delete anything. Sloppy. Maybe part of her wanted to get caught. Room 217, Fairfield Inn, East Austin. I waited until late afternoon, hoping they'd both be back from wherever they were playing house. I knocked. A pause. Then the door opened slightly. Carter. He looked just like his voice. Arrogant. He wore a sleeveless hoodie, smelled like cologne and vape, and had that tired smugness of someone who thought they'd won. "Yeah?" he said, raising an eyebrow. "I'm Rachel's husband." His expression didn't even change. "Ah," he said, as if he'd been expecting this moment. He stepped out into the hallway, gently closing the door behind him. "I figured this would happen," he muttered. I folded my arms. "So you knew she was married?" "Of course I knew," he said, almost proudly. "She told me everything, said you were emotionally distant, boring, the usual. You guys barely even talked anymore." I clenched my jaw. "And that made it okay to move in on her?" "She came to me, man," he said, shrugging. "You think I went looking for housewives on PUBG? She was the one who DM'd me after a match. She kept the convo going. I just played along." "Played along?" I repeated, feeling my blood boil. "You called her baby. You said you loved her." He snorted. "I've said I love you to girls in League, in Fortnite, in Overwatch. It's part of the fantasy. This one just went further than most." I could have punched him right then, but I didn't. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't want to give him the satisfaction. He wanted me angry, wanted to see if I'd snap. That was his kind of win. "You think this is just a game?" I asked quietly. He leaned in. "To her it was. Until now. Until you made it real." I walked away without another word. Back in my car, I sat in silence, shaking. My hands were clenched so tight the knuckles were white. I drove home in a blur, barely noticing the road. Rachel wasn't there. Of course not. But something else was. A letter. Handwritten, left on the kitchen counter, with my name on it. I opened it slowly. Recognized her handwriting immediately. Neat, precise, with those little loops she made on every Y. I don't know how to fix this. I never planned for things to go this far. Carter made me feel things I haven't felt in years. Excitement, youth, attention. I felt like someone again. You're a good man. You always were. But somewhere along the way, we stopped seeing each other. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just want you to know I'm sorry. I'm going to stay with my sister for a while. Please give Max a hug for me. Rachel. I read it once, then again. Then I tore it into 100 pieces and dumped it in the trash. She wasn't sorry she did it. She was sorry she got caught. That night, I posted another update on Reddit. The first story had gone viral. Over 50,000 upvotes now. People were invested. They wanted to know what happened next. I kept it honest. The hotel meeting, the letter, the cold reality of betrayal, not just through sex, but through an entire alternate life built in a digital world. And then I got another message. Hunt her down again. Look up Megan D. Tulsa OK. Same guy, same story. I froze. I Googled the name, found a Facebook profile, public enough to see the basics. Photos, a post from 2023 showing a baby bump, a wedding photo, then a post a few months later, vague, sad, talking about divorce and betrayal. I sent her a message. It felt insane, but I had to know. She responded within an hour, and what she told me shattered everything I thought I knew about Carter. He had done this before, at least 3 times. Same pattern. Meet through PUBG, flirt during matches, build an emotional connection, arrange a meetup, pretend to be in love, then vanish, like a sniper in the fog. He had a system, a hobby. Rachel wasn't his first, and I wasn't the first husband left in ruins. This wasn't a love story gone wrong. It was a hunt, and we were his trophies.
I couldn't sleep that night. I kept rereading the messages from Megan. Her story mirrored mine with terrifying precision. The late-night games, the sweet nothings in Discord, the promises of a future that never came. Carter had told her he loved her, said he wanted to leave everything behind for her, that they'd raise her kid together, even though the baby wasn't his. And then, just like that, he vanished. Megan only found out about his pattern when another woman messaged her, a girl from Chicago who had the same story. Carter had used a different gamer tag back then, ex-hunter sniper, but the same voice, the same tactics, the same manipulation. The worst part? They had both reported him to PUBG's moderation team. Nothing happened, because technically, he wasn't breaking any in-game rules. There were no terms of service for emotional terrorism. I felt sick. This wasn't about Rachel anymore. Not really. She was a willing participant, sure, but Carter? He was the architect. He found vulnerable women like her, wrapped them in fantasy, tore their marriages apart, then moved on. He needed to be stopped. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out to every woman who had interacted with him on Rachel's Discord. There were dozens. Some names I recognized from old matches, some I didn't. Most ignored me, but a few replied. One of them, Samantha from Denver, had screenshots, chat logs, voice clips. She had almost flown out to meet him, but backed out last second. Her gut told her something was off. Another woman, Lisa, told me she had sent Carter thousands of dollars over 6 months. He had claimed he needed help with rent, groceries, plane tickets. She thought they were in love. Turns out he was playing her during the exact same period he was with Rachel. And then came the bombshell. A girl named Kaylee, just 24, told me Carter wasn't even his real name. He had sent her a selfie once, a dumb bathroom mirror shot with his face half covered by his phone. She reverse image searched it, found a match. The guy's real name was Derek Carson, from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. No military background like he claimed, no sister in need of surgery, just a serial manipulator who worked part-time at a tire shop and spent the rest of his time online crafting lies. I felt something ignite inside me. Rage, yes, but also purpose. I wasn't just some heartbroken husband anymore. I was the last boss he didn't see coming.
That weekend, I launched a blog, The Carter Chronicles. I used aliases, blurred names, changed locations, but told the truth. Every detail, every chat, every pattern. I uploaded timelines, voice clips, testimonies from the other women. I painted a picture so detailed, so damning, it was impossible to ignore. I linked it anonymously on Reddit. Within hours, it blew up. People shared it on Twitter. TikTokers made dramatic readings of the stories. Even gaming streamers reacted to it live, calling Carter, or Derek, the serial squad snake. Memes flooded in. Fan art, parodies, drama channels ate it up. I expected Rachel to contact me when she saw it. She didn't. Not for 4 days. Then one night, around 11 p.m., she showed up at the house. I opened the door to find her standing there with tears in her eyes, holding her phone. "You wrote that blog?" she whispered. I said nothing. She stepped inside. Max barked once, then backed away, confused. He hadn't seen her in weeks. "I didn't know," she said. "I didn't know he had done this to others. I thought it was real." "Was it real when you kissed him?" I asked. She looked down. "No." "Was it real when you told him you loved him?" She didn't answer. "You left me," I said, voice shaking. "You destroyed our marriage for a guy who had a high kill-death ratio and a voice that made you feel 20 again." Tears streamed down her face. "I made a mistake." "You made dozens." She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. "I want to fix this," she whispered. "I want to try again." I almost laughed. "You want to fix this? What does that even mean, Rachel? You want to roll back time, reboot the save file?" She looked up. "I don't expect you to take me back. I need you to know I'm sorry for all of it." For a moment, I believed her. Then I remembered what Carter, Derek, had said to me outside the hotel. "She came to me, man." And I remembered the chat logs, the photos, the way she smiled at him. She didn't fall. She jumped. I stood up, walked to the front door, opened it. "You should go." She stared at me, shocked. "You're kicking me out again?" "I didn't kick you out the first time. You left." She walked to the door, then turned. "I'll always regret it. Not as much as I regret trusting you." She walked away. And just like that, the chapter was closed. But the story wasn't over. Because the blog kept growing, more women came forward, more stories, one even from a man who claimed Carter had tried the same tricks on his fiancée. And then one day, I got a message from a gaming journalist. She wanted to do a full exposé. Said this could be the story of the year, a digital con man using online games as hunting grounds. I agreed to be interviewed, anonymously. When the article dropped, it hit harder than I expected. The predator in your party chat, how one man weaponized PUBG to wreck lives. It was everywhere. And guess who finally responded? Derek. He found my personal email somehow. One line. "You're dead when I find you." I forwarded it to the journalist, then to a lawyer, then to the police. Because now, it was real. And I wasn't scared. I was just getting started.
I didn't respond to Derek's threat. I wanted to. I wanted to send him a long, carefully crafted paragraph explaining how thoroughly I had exposed him, how many people had come forward, how his reputation in the gaming community was circling the drain. But I didn't. I let the silence speak. The article did its job. Within 2 days, multiple platforms banned his account. PUBG, Discord, even Reddit. Word spread fast. Mods from gaming subreddits pinned warnings. Streamers mentioned him as a cautionary tale. I watched with a strange sense of detachment as his empire of fantasy slowly crumbled. But then he pushed back. A week after the article, someone posted a YouTube video titled "The Real Story Behind the Carter Chronicles: Lies from a Bitter Husband." The thumbnail showed my wedding photo, cropped from Rachel's public Instagram, with a giant red X across my face and the words "exposed." My blood turned cold. I clicked. The video was amateurish, but the message was clear. Derek painted himself as the victim of a smear campaign, said he had been catfished emotionally by women who used him for attention, then turned on him when he refused to meet up. He said the blog was revenge fiction created by a jealous ex who couldn't accept that his wife had moved on. And then he played a clip. Rachel's voice. A private voice message she had sent him weeks before all of this, laughing, telling him I was emotionally unavailable, that I didn't even touch her anymore, that she was just biding her time until she could leave me for good. My stomach twisted. The video had over 200,000 views in 2 days. Comments were split, some supporting Derek, others defending the women. But now it wasn't just drama, it was war, and Rachel had handed him ammo. I texted her, "You sent him voice messages? About me?" She replied instantly, "I didn't know he saved them. I was venting. I didn't think it would go public. You just gave him the perfect weapon. I'm sorry." But sorry didn't undo it. The damage was done. People started messaging me, some cruel, some curious. I even got a call at work from a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, the voice said, "Did your wife cheat because you're boring in bed too?" And then hung up. That night, I went for a long walk with Max. I needed to clear my head, to remind myself that I still had control over something, anything. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't just going to defend myself. I was going to finish what I started. I reached out to the journalist again, asked if she could help me go public, fully. No more aliases, no more blurred faces. Just me, telling the story from start to finish. She hesitated, said it would expose me to more harassment, more trolls. I said, let them come. We recorded an interview at a rented studio. Clean background, straight to camera. I told it all. The marriage, the betrayal, the recordings, the blog, and Derek. Everything. When it aired, it went viral within hours. People saw the pain on my face, heard the exhaustion in my voice, understood that this wasn't just about a game. It was about trust, deceit, manipulation across digital borders. The tide turned. Even Derek's video was flagged and demonetized. YouTube added a disclaimer linking to the journalist's report. Some of the women who had defended him deleted their tweets, wouldn't even apologize to me in DMs. Rachel didn't message me for days. Then, one evening, she showed up again. I opened the door, already exhausted. She said, "I saw the video. You told the truth." I always did. She looked tired, thinner, her eyes puffy like she hadn't slept in days. She said, "He used me too. I thought I was special, that we had something. You did. For him, it was Tuesday." She winced. "I'm seeing a therapist now, trying to understand why I did what I did." I nodded, not because I forgave her, but because I respected the attempt. She asked after a long pause, "Are you going to forgive me?" "I don't know," I admitted, "but I'm not angry anymore. Just tired." She turned to leave, but then looked back. "If you ever want to talk, or..." I closed the door gently. That night, I updated the blog one final time, titled it Final Circle. I didn't win. I didn't lose. I survived. That's all some of us can hope for. In the end, this wasn't about Rachel, or Derek, or even PUBG. It was about waking up from a dream you didn't know you were in. If you're reading this and going through something similar, don't blame yourself. Don't chase revenge. Chase truth. It's the only weapon that matters. I'm logging off now. Good luck,
And don't land at school. It's always a trap. I closed the laptop, pet Max, and for the first time in weeks, I slept.
3 weeks went by without a single message, call, or ping. No anonymous DMs, no Rachel drop-ins, no new Carter drama. It was strange how quiet the world became once you finally laid everything bare. There was a moment when I feared the silence, thought maybe I'd grown addicted to the noise, the updates, the replies, the surge of strangers rallying around my pain. But slowly, something shifted. I started walking Max longer. I made my coffee with care instead of rushing it. I stopped checking Reddit every 10 minutes. And when I finally opened PUBG again, not to spy, not to chase, just to play, it felt different, like reclaiming something. The username Snipes and Wine still held weight. When I dropped into Erangel again, a player on my team asked, "Aren't you that guy from the blog?" I hesitated, then replied, "Yeah, that's me." We ended up winning that match. Later that night, I got a DM from the same player. His name was Nate. Said he'd gone through something similar. His fiancée cheated during lockdown. Not through gaming, just the old-fashioned way. But reading my story made him feel less stupid. He wrote, "I thought I was the only one." I replied, "You're never the only one." That phrase stuck with me. Because no matter how isolated we feel in betrayal, or never truly alone in it, there's always someone else who's walked through the same fire thinking they were the first to burn. A few days later, the journalist reached out again. Said her publisher wanted to turn the article series into a podcast, long-form interview style. She wanted me to host it, under my real name this time. At first, I said no. I was done, or so I thought. But then I remembered Kaylee, Lisa, Megan, even Rachel, women and men who got swept up in the illusion, people who never got to tell their side, people who deserve better than just another private voice message in some predator's hard drive. So I said yes. The first episode was titled Respawn, a reset point, a fresh start. It opened with my voice, shaky but clear. Welcome to Respawn, a podcast about second chances, digital deceptions, and the ways people weaponize trust. I'm your host, Marcus Reed, and this is my story. The podcast took off faster than I imagined. Not because I was some media-savvy genius, but because the world was already hungry for these stories. We were the casualties of emotional warfare in an online world. And finally, someone was naming the battlefield. Each episode, I interviewed a different person. Some told stories darker than mine. Manipulation, grooming, even financial ruin. Others shared how they rebuilt. One woman found love again through a co-op farming sim after her ex-husband cheated through Call of Duty. Another man left behind a decade of shame after realizing his online affair didn't make him evil, just lost. People connected to it. They wrote in, they called, they donated. One episode even made it to the Spotify top 20 for a week. That's when I got the next surprise. A letter. Not from Rachel, not from Derek. From Derek's mother. It arrived in a plain envelope, no return address. Just my name and city written in shaky cursive. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Dear Marcus, I don't know you, but I know what my son has done. I found your blog after a coworker sent it to me. At first, I didn't believe it. I thought it was all lies. But then I saw his old texts, the usernames, the recordings. I raised him better than this. I don't know what happened to him, but I am so sorry for what he did to you and to all those women. I haven't spoken to him in weeks. He left town, said he was starting over. I hope he one day sees what he became. And I hope you find peace. And Mark Karen Carson. I sat with that letter for a long time. Not because I forgave Derek, but because it reminded me that even villains have people who once believed in them. A few weeks later, a small package showed up at my door. No return label. Inside was a USB stick. No note, just the drive. I plugged it in carefully, scanning it for viruses. There was only one file. Recording final.mp3. I clicked play. Derek's voice. I guess this is my confession, he began, voice low. You won. You and all those angry Redditors. You burned it all down. And maybe I deserved it. How I definitely did. He paused. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I liked the power, the control, or maybe I just liked feeling like someone when I was online. Real life never gave me that. Another pause. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I wouldn't forgive me either. But maybe you'll understand this. I never expected anyone to stay. That's why I never tried.
Silence. Then the recording ended. I stared at the screen. It wasn't an apology. Not really. It was more like a last breadcrumb from someone who'd finally realized the game was over. I thought about deleting it. Instead, I used it. I played a clip of it at the end of our season finale. The episode was titled Endgame. After it aired, Rachel texted one last time. I heard the episode. I hope you find someone better than me. I stared at the screen. No anger, no bitterness, just clarity. I typed back, I already did. I found myself. Then I blocked her number, closed the app, turned off my phone, and took Max for another long walk. Because some stories don't need sequels. Some just need closure.
It's strange how quiet peace sounds. Not silence, not the cold, suffocating stillness I felt after Rachel left. That was different. That was a void. This peace was gentle, like the absence of chaos rather than the absence of sound. Birds chirped in the morning. Max's collar jingled softly during our walks. I brewed coffee without dread. I didn't flinch when my phone buzzed. That was peace. 3 months passed. The podcast was still going, though I'd shifted to a slower pace, bi-weekly now, sometimes even monthly. I didn't need the constant momentum anymore. I didn't need to prove anything. People still listened. They wrote emails, sent voicemails, shared stories that were vulnerable, hilarious, or heartbreakingly raw. One message stuck with me. A man from Canada said, "Your podcast didn't save me. It reminded me I could save myself." I printed that and taped it above my desk. I was rebuilding, piece by piece. My name was no longer tethered to Rachel, or to Derek, or even to the blog. It stood on its own now. I was Marcus Reed, host, writer, survivor. And then one day, something unexpected happened. I got a friend request. Not from Rachel, not from Derek, from someone named Avery. The name didn't ring a bell, but the message that followed did. "Hey Marcus, I don't know if you remember me. We played a few PUBG matches last year. I was Caffeine Kitten. I just listened to your podcast and, wow, you're incredible." I did remember her, barely. Back then she was the quiet type, a solid teammate, great with snipers, always had good callouts. We played maybe 4 or 5 matches during lockdown, but never really talked beyond game strategy. I replied politely, "Hey, thanks for the kind words. Hope you're doing well." That should have been it, but it wasn't. She replied again, then again. Before I knew it, we were chatting regularly, not just about games, but books, movies, life stuff. She was an ICU nurse in Oregon, divorced, owned 2 cats. Her messages were smart and warm, with just enough sass to keep me grinning. After a few weeks, she sent a message that made my heart race. "You want to squat up sometime? I promise I still carry noobs like a pro." I said yes. We dropped into Sandhawk, won 2 games in a row. The third one we died horribly. Some kids sniped us both from a rooftop and teabagged our corpses. But I didn't care. I was laughing again, like real laughing, the kind that shook my chest. After the match, we didn't queue again. We just stayed in the lobby, talking. She asked how Max was. I told her he snored louder than ever. She told me about her nightmare shifts during COVID, how video games saved her mental health when the world felt like it was collapsing. I found myself telling her things I hadn't told anyone in months. When the call ended, it was almost 3 a.m. I stared at the screen for a while, smiling. No expectations, no pressure, just connection. A week later, she said she'd be passing through Austin on her way to visit family in San Antonio. "Want to grab coffee?" she asked casually, like it was the most loaded question I'd gotten since Rachel kissed Carter. I hesitated. Then I said yes. We met at a little place downtown, outdoor patio, shady trees, strong espresso. She wore jeans, a denim jacket, and no makeup. Her hair was tied up, a pair of sunglasses perched on her head. She looked exactly like someone I could get coffee with 100 more times and never get tired of it. We talked for 3 hours. No awkward pauses, no weird energy, just easy, effortless flow. When we said goodbye, she hugged me tight. Not romantic, not suggestive, just real. "You're not what I expected," she said softly. "Neither was I replied. Later that night, she sent me a message. "I'd like to see you again, if you want to." I stared at that text for a long time. Because here's the thing they don't tell you about healing. It's not linear. Some days you feel free. Other days your breath catches because someone walked by wearing the same perfume your ex did. But in that moment, reading her message, I didn't feel fear. I felt ready. "I'd like that too," I typed. Then I hit send. The next few weeks felt like starting a new campaign. A clean map. No fog of war. Just open terrain and possibility. I didn't tell her everything about Rachel right away, or Derek, or even the blog. She already knew the basics, but I let her learn the rest over time. At her pace, at mine. And she listened. Really listened. One night after a long gaming session, she said, "You know, I used to think playing with strangers online was pointless, but now I think maybe it was just the long road to the right person." I didn't know what to say. So I said what I meant. Same.
6 months after that first coffee with Avery, she came back to Austin, this time not just passing through. She stayed the weekend. We walked the Greenbelt Trail with Max, ate tacos from a food truck at midnight, played PUBG split-screen style just for the nostalgia. We died early every round, too busy laughing at each other's awful aim with controller setups we weren't used to. But those nights, quiet, simple, safe, reminded me of something I thought I'd lost. The feeling that home wasn't a place, it was a presence, a person. I never thought I'd trust again. Not really. Not after what Rachel did. Not after what Derek showed me about how easily people can weaponize affection. But trust doesn't come back all at once. It's not some dramatic moment with swelling music and a grand speech. It's slower than that. Subtler. It comes in tiny choices. Letting someone in. Telling the truth even when it's uncomfortable. Believing their kindness isn't just a setup for betrayal. Avery never once asked me to forget what happened. She just asked if I wanted to move forward anyway. And I did. One afternoon, as we sat on my porch drinking cold brew and watching Max chew on stick like it was his sworn enemy, she asked me, "Do you ever think about writing a book?" I shrugged. Sometimes." "You should," she said. "The podcast is amazing, but there's more in you. I can tell." I smiled. "You know, that'd mean digging back through everything again." "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe it just means turning the page." A few weeks later, I started drafting. Not a memoir. Not exactly. More like a blend. Personal story, reflections on digital intimacy, a guide for spotting red flags in virtual relationships. The working title was Load In, Don't Log Off, Surviving Love in the Online Age. Cringy, maybe, but it felt right. The publisher who reached out after the podcast helped shape it. They believed in it, believed in me. And somewhere in the blur of deadlines and late-night edits, I realized I no longer felt haunted by the past. I was shaping it into something useful. Rachel never contacted me again. I heard from a mutual friend that she moved to Portland, started working at a new clinic. Part of me wondered if she still gamed, if she still dropped into Erangel, maybe hearing echoes of our old days. But I didn't dwell on it. Her story had diverged from mine a long time ago. She wasn't the villain in my life anymore, just a character who left the campaign early. As for Derek, the last I heard, he'd been doxxed by one of the women he manipulated. Lost his job, got banned from multiple platforms under various aliases. Eventually, he disappeared from online spaces completely. No one missed him. Some justice isn't loud. It just fades. When my book finally released, the support was overwhelming. Messages poured in from across the globe. People who felt seen, people who felt validated, people who had never thought to connect the dots between betrayal and broadband. One man told me he canceled his wedding after recognizing the same digital behaviors in his fiancée. Another woman said she finally forgave herself after years of guilt over an online affair that cost her everything. I saved those messages in a folder called Response. Every time I doubted whether it had been worth it, the exposure, the pain, the public unraveling, I opened that folder. Avery was there the whole time, cheering me on, proofreading chapters, letting me talk out loud in the middle of the night when a paragraph just wouldn't land right. She never tried to fix me. She just stood beside me while I learned how to rebuild myself. One night after a live podcast event in New York, we walked back to the hotel in the cold. I looked at her cheeks pink from the wind, her hair messy under a beanie, her gloved hand wrapped around mine,
and realized something quietly terrifying. I loved her. Not in the desperate, dizzying way I once thought love was supposed to feel, not like a game you had to win, but like exhaling after holding your breath too long. I told her that night. She didn't say anything at first, just stared at me. Then she kissed me. Not dramatic, not perfect, just real. "I was hoping you'd say it first," she whispered. I laughed. "Guess I'm still competitive." Later, back at the hotel, as we sat in bed listening to city noise outside the window, she asked me, "Do you ever think about writing a book?" I thought about it. Nah," I said. "Too many ghosts on that map." She nodded. "But," I added, "if you ever want to drop into something new, I'm always down for co-op." She smiled and nudged me. "Only if I get to be squad leader." "Deal." And just like that, the chapter turned. Not erased. Just turned. Because healing isn't forgetting. It's remembering without bleeding. And in the aftermath of betrayal, after the pain, after the fire, sometimes, if you're lucky, you find something better than what you lost. You find yourself. And maybe, if the timing is right, you find someone who never makes you feel like a side quest again.